Well, good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on which part of the world you're in, and welcome to day 2 of the newfound virtual market mission. We're in for a really big day today, a series of really important discussions on what support is available for you from the government agencies all around the country. But before we get onto that, I just want to recap on some of the important things that we discussed yesterday. Welcome to all of our guests, by the way. We've got 18 different companies that are looking to come down here to Australia, and over 100 delegates looking in today at today's session, and we're here again yesterday. That's a fantastic outcome for this series and really has met and in fact exceeded our expectations. So welcome all of you to this series of sessions today. And before we get started, I wanted to just send a message of encouragement to have you get involved by asking questions and getting involved in the discussion with each of our presenters today. There's 2 ways that you can do that. The first way, of course, is use the Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. And I can monitor those questions that come in to each session. And if we don't get to answer each question in each session, we'll come back to you following that session and try and answer them all the same. But the second part of the way, which I think is truly unique and really powerful as well, and I really want to encourage you to take advantage of this, is to meet the speakers sessions. So what we've done is after each of the presentations, towards the end of that group of presentations, we then break away and you get to actually meet the speakers by connecting through the platform, and you can actually virtually meet the speakers. They can see you and you can ask them questions and have a real discussion for about 20 minutes or even half an hour. To talk to them on some of those questions that you didn't get to ask through the session. So I really do encourage you to take advantage of that, because it's quite unique, and it means that the speakers have put out the invitation for you to talk to them in quite some detail. So yesterday we heard from Rebecca Schott-Guppy, CEO of Fintech Australia, Dan Tepper, Head of Fintech, KPMG, and Simon Cant, who's a bit of a legend here in Australia. He's the co-founder and managing partner of Reinventure here in Australia. Some real heavyweights in the fintech space here in Australia, and they gave us some great insights over an hour of what you're needing to do to look at the landscape and look at the conditions and environment here in Australia. So I hope you took advantage and took notes during those sessions. Today what we're going to do is we're going to hear about what support is available from the different states. We open with the Federal Minister, the new Fintech Federal Minister, Jane Hume, but you're going to hear from those states today, and then also some of the hubs that are here, the fintech hubs that are set up around the different cities to help you and guide you. They want to welcome you and they want to support you in your adventure down here in Australia and make it as easy as possible. So without any further ado, what I'm now going to do is welcome our first speakers today, and they are Ian McLean, Market Leader, UK and Europe for Invest Victoria, and also Julia Mills, Investment Director, UK and Europe of Invest in Victoria. I've looked at their CVs. You can look at their bios online. They're fantastically qualified to welcome you and give you this discussion. They've got a presentation, and as I said in the opening, we might have a time for a couple of questions, and then later on you get the chance to meet Ian and Julia in the Meet the Speaker sessions. Ian, welcome to the first newfound virtual market mission. Julia, welcome indeed. Ian, I'm going to throw it to you. I know that you've got a presentation. We're going to run through that presentation, and then Julie, we might get to hear from you as well, and then meet you later on. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, and I'll ask Julia to lead off, if I may.
Yeah, so thanks very much everyone for joining us today on this virtual mission. Unfortunately, you don't get to actually try out any of Melbourne's famous food and coffee on this occasion, but we hope that you will join us next year in person. So today, Ian and I are just going to speak to you a little bit about some of the opportunities in Victoria and how we can support you. Over to Ian.
Okay, thank you, Julia. So just building on from what Senator Jane Hume was saying talking about yesterday, about some of the opportunities in Australia and the environment that is open for fintech companies. So we've had the Royal Commission into misconduct in the banking and superannuation sector and the financial services sector. So that's driving a lot of opportunities in the regtech sector and around the supervisory and space. So that's adding some opportunity there. She also talked about the consumer data rights that is coming into effect in 2020, and will have a focus on open banking and transporting of data. So that's driving opportunities as well. And also, the Senator Jane Hume also talked about the regulatory sandbox that allows fintech operations to test their products over a period of 24 months without a financial services license. So that gives you an opportunity to come into Australia, try your product and test it out, particularly with a regulator. There, you know, like everywhere, you know, the tighter financial market conditions are causing financial institutions to innovate and adjust their product offering and servicing. So that's leading to greater partnerships in the corporate sector and the banking sector. And obviously with COVID, we've seen an accelerated need for banks to digitise their offerings and servicing. And I think that we spoke about yesterday from Fintech Australia, talking about the payments platform in Australia being leading one of the world. And we've certainly seen that accelerate in a COVID world. So the opportunities, and also yesterday, the Senator talked about the Australia-UK Fintech Bridge and the FTA between Australia and the UK driving opportunities. So on the screen, you can see the areas for growth for UK Fintech companies: digital payments, AI and analytics, wealth tech and cybersecurity are key areas. If we look at the Australian market, there's been a strong adoption of fintech products, growing from 13% in 2015 to 58% in 2019. And I imagine with COVID, the payments paywave services will see that accelerate. Australia is ahead of Canada, the USA, France and Japan in terms of the adoption of fintech products and services. In terms of the makeup of the Australian fintech market, we can see there's 30% in the wealth sector. We've seen lending in the lending sector, 23%, data analytics and big data, 18%, and as I said, payments and 16%, but we expect that to grow. We've seen global giants such as Square and Stripe have established their headquarters in Melbourne, and we've seen fast-growing companies like Afterpay, Air Wallets and Assembly Payments and Pepperstone set up their fintech startups here in Victoria. So we've seen a lot of these companies raising capital. We've had Judo Capital, which is a challenger bank, establish, raising 340 million in capital, and Moola raising 250 million. And a success in this current environment has certainly been in Afterpay. I'll hand back to Julia, who can talk about some of the comparisons between Australia and the UK.
Thanks, Ian. So Australia, unlike other traditional markets where there's one financial centre like London for the UK or New York for the US and Tokyo for Japan, the financial service sector is fairly evenly split across both Melbourne and Sydney, with each capital having its own strengths and expertise. So a lot of companies setting up in Australia recognise they're going to be spending time on a flight between both locations, servicing clients. So it's really about finding the location that's the best fit for your company. And just to give you some of the headline figures about Victoria, obviously, Ian, thank you for the overview of, sort of Australia more generally. If you're looking at Melbourne, of Australia's 4 largest banks, 2, NAB and ANZ, are headquartered in Melbourne. The Commonwealth Bank and Westpac also have significant operations there. And Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, which is the largest regional bank in Australia, is also headquartered in Victoria, as are a number of foreign-owned financial institutions. But fintech, as we all know, is not just about banks. So Victoria has 34% of all the superannuation funds in Australia. And the superannuation sector really represents a unique opportunity here. It has the 4th largest pension market in the world, with 2.7 trillion Australian dollars in assets. Melbourne also has a vibrant health insurance scene. So Medibank Private and Bupa Australia, which are two of the largest health insurance funds, are also located in Melbourne. Bupa, as you're probably aware, it's a UK company. They have 19,000 people now in Australia, 5,000 of which are in Victoria. The estimated wealth of Victoria's top family offices is over 94 billion Australian dollars. So that's larger than any other Australian state. Also Square Peg and Brandon Capital, which are two of Australia's largest venture capital firms, are headquartered in Melbourne. So it's no surprise then that Victoria has a healthy and innovative fintech sector. Fintech Australia is actually headquartered in Melbourne. So Rebecca, who you spoke with yesterday, is based there. And it's also home to Australia's largest fintech conference, Intersect, which should have been taking place this October, but obviously with COVID has been postponed, but hopefully you'll be able to participate in that next time. We also have two fintech hubs at the York Butter Factory and Stone and Chalk. And as you can see from this slide, Melbourne has a mature and diverse range of fintechs. So that ranges from startups, like Afterpay, Square, Judo Bank, through to quite established players that really need to evolve, like the banks such as NAB and ANZ and Future Fund. So in addition to the market opportunities that Ian and I have just highlighted, I'm just going to go through quickly some of the benefits and reasons why the fintechs we've working with have chosen to establish in Melbourne. So Melbourne is actually Australia's fastest growing city and projected to be Australia's largest city as early as 2030. Victoria offers the lowest business tax burden of any state in Australia and is ranked the most business friendly state. Victoria's payroll tax is 7% lower than New South Wales, while commercial rents are 26% lower than Sydney, and salary costs on average are about 10% lower. Melbourne was also identified by the Saville City Index in 2019 as one of the 30 global centres at the forefront of tech, and was actually the only Australian city to feature in that list. And it's also been voted the most livable city in the world 7 years in a row by The Economist. And just in terms of which companies are coming into Melbourne, so obviously we have quite a lot of homegrown players, but there are an increasing number of foreign fintechs that are choosing Melbourne. I'd like to highlight some of the recent entries that we've helped to establish a presence here. So Revolut, which is probably one that you all know, set up its Australian headquarters in 2018 in Melbourne. And they launched a beta version of its app mid last year to a limited number of customers. Now that the beta is complete, it began last month to onboard its 30,000 strong waitlist. Go Cardless, which set up in 2018 in Melbourne, their VP of International Expansion recently told me that Australia is going better than expected and is actually one of their fastest growing markets. TrueLayer, which is a London-based provider of financial APIs, set up its APAC headquarters in Melbourne last year, which makes it the first European open banking specialist to establish a presence in the region. And the company already has plans to expand further to Hong Kong and Singapore. I think we'll probably see more companies in this sector due to the open banking regulations that came into place. Trade24, which is a Swiss company, established its first overseas office in Melbourne due to its significantly underbanked niche. And then the US fintech giant Square, which I'm sure you all know, set up their APAC headquarters in 2016. And then 2 years later, their engineering hub, which is actually its first engineering hub outside of North America in Melbourne. And Stripe set up its Melbourne offices in 2015.
Thanks, Julia. So that gives you a flavour of some of the companies that are set up here, and just wanted to talk about the services that Invest Victoria can offer companies from the UK and Europe, or more broadly across the globe looking to set up here. Invest Victoria is a Victorian Government's investment promotion agency. We are the single point of entry for international investors looking to access the Victorian market. We can provide a range of no-cost investment facilitation services. So those services include information around helping you build your business case, in terms of cost of running an operation here in Victoria, connecting you to various talent providers, and also helping you, with the labour market skills, visa applications, etc. So connections to industry, to the local industry here, the superannuation funds and the banks, and also other fintech companies that may have established here to learn from their experiences, and also connecting with the various chambers of commerce, the British Chamber of Commerce, UKDIT, which we have a close relationship with. We also have a property team that can help find you suitable office locations and facilitation, not so much for fintech, but we do have industrial companies that we help with regulatory approvals. We have a global support teams in your home market. So Julia and I work seamlessly on account management with Julia and her team in London and my team here in Melbourne. We will try and provide a seamless service to you. We have 23 offices around the globe, so that when you are established here and you're trading up into Asia, you can benefit from Victorian government business offices based in Asia. And then from time to time, we will work through with you as to whether you would be eligible for any financial assistance that the government may be running programs for that may be suitable to your needs. They're negotiated one-on-one based on your business case and understanding what you're bringing to the Victorian market. And as I said, ongoing support. So when you're here, you're allocated an account manager and you're networked into the Victorian financial markets. So we run various events. One of the key events we had was the City of London Lord Mayor visit, where he brought a whole delegation, and we were connecting that delegation to the Australian market. So that's a kind of range of services. So happy to take any questions, Andrew, if any have come through.
Just a question there, Ian, on on finding talent in Melbourne. I think this is a really important point, is that, in my experience, and although I live and do business in Sydney, I love coming to Melbourne. I'm a real fan of Melbourne because it is so cosmopolitan. The two cities are quite different in style, but I've also found that Melbourne is rich in talent from the banking and financial services sector, not only Australian homegrown talent, but also from different parts of the world. What's the level of talent currently there in Melbourne? Ian, can you give us any insights into that?
So, we work very closely with the universities, for graduates that are coming out of the commerce, banking and finance sector. And we also are working with various talent providers here. I would say there's a fairly deep talent pool here. Most Melbourneians are very like to identify with the company that they're working with, but they're very tech savvy and they're looking for challenges. So I think there's a fairly good pipeline of talent that is coming both through the graduates. It's coming through the university sector and existing talent that is here. One point we find is that the talent tends to be a bit more stickier. They identify with a company and will grow with them. We've seen that with a lot of new entrants. They'll work with a country manager and also we'll try and help them, where we can, identify suitable talent and country managers or make introductions where we can. But a lot of them have come out here and stayed here because they like the lifestyle. Julia, do you have any observations from your side?
Yeah, so I think in terms of not just the banking and finance side of things, but also on the tech side. So Victoria has the highest number of ICT and engineering graduates, and also produces the most PhD completions in maths and computer science than any other Australian state. So we found that companies have actually found it easier to recruit talent. Not easy necessarily, I think that's possibly one of the things that we have heard back from companies is that Australia is sometimes difficult to recruit staff. And I think that's one of the things that we can also help with is, as you're probably aware, the immigration rules have tightened up a little bit over the last couple of years. So companies have been finding it a bit more difficult to get people in, and that's where Victoria can help as well. So we quite often write letters of support for companies that are trying to bring in key people, whether that's tech people or senior management that you need to bring in. So we can definitely help on that front if you can't find the people locally. But we do have a very strong pool in Victoria.
And just adding to that, on our website, we have a list of partners that we work with, Invest Victoria, network, where we've got recruitment firms that we've worked with, and you can access that on our website.
Fantastic, Ian, and thank you, Julia, for your opening comments today. As I said earlier, you'll be able to meet Ian and Julia in the Meet the Speaker sessions in a little later on this evening, which we'll highlight. Thank you so much for your presentation indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.